Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live about water healing in the body. I'm going to invite Dana in really quick. Hope everyone is having a good day so far. You're really excited about this topic today. We could go on for hours about water healing. We were just talking about it, so there we
Hello.
are. Hello. Oh, what happened? Oh, we lost Dana. Always some kind of technical issue. Let's see. Let's get her back in here. There we go.
Here I am. I'm not sure what happened there.
That's okay. Yeah, it happens. I'm just trying to change my camera here. No, put it up. Anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. A little sick over here, so bear with me. But other than that, good. It's a nice, beautiful day. So I think I need some water healing myself tonight.
I,
So
I know. That sounds good, right?
mhm. Yeah, I got like some food poisoning the other day, and I've just been puffy and tired. So yeah, some a nice water healing in the shower, which we'll talk about later.
And hydration, too, like
and
making sure you drink the water
yeah,
to stay hydrated. Yeah.
100%, yes. Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, Dana and I are excited to be here today to speak to you about water healing in the body, which is something we've done a lot of journeys on and experienced a lot with the water healing. So yeah, and also we decided to do this live today on this topic because tomorrow we are holding our group shamanic journey where we are going to journey with water and healing in the body. So if anybody's interested in joining that group journey tomorrow, you can click our link in bio and sign up. And, after watching this live and hearing all about what it is, you can join us and see it in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always, I think when we do our journeys, we try to make them organic to sort of like what we're working through, sort of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening in our own healing journey. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also, I think, a great time of year to connect with water. It's the summer. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
us are spending more time in water. We're outside in it. We're able to, connect to it in a sometimes what feels like a deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so Danny, you were telling me this quote this morning that we thought was so perfect for what we're talking about today and a good segue into the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I saw this quote actually on Instagram, and it's really been sticking with me for the last few days. And it says, "If we are made of light, water, sound, frequency, so too is our healing." And I think that just really speaks to all of the different sort of doorways into healing. Light, water, sound, frequency. They're all different ways to work with the healing, to work with spirit.
Mhm.
What was it you said when we were talking before we hopped on that water's a portal, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in our journeys, what we've discovered is that water is a portal, to other dimensions. And
Hmm.
it's not only a portal, but it's also filled with light and with healing codes that we download and we channel into our bodies when we connect with it.
Absolutely. If we do our part and we show up for the healing and set the intention, like water will literally, no pun intended, let it like flow into us, like it'll literally come from spirit, come from the other side and through us and into us. It's a really
Mhm.
interesting, fascinating way to connect and to download information. Um, yeah, to really
Mhm.
allow ourselves to begin that transformation process of healing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, it's a gateway. It's a gateway to
Hmm.
our healing. And
Yeah.
And like you said, I think if we really set the intention to connect with it, or whether we intentionally set that connection, or whether it comes to us and we open up to that connection,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it really can be very transformative and magical.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting. When we started our journey, we were open to the messages that water were giving us. And
Mhm,
then because we were open, we learned how to set the intention to kind of continue furthering the journey.
mhm,
It could be
mhm,
kind of cool to talk about like what water's like, what our journey with it has been. I think both
mhm,
metaphysically and in the real world, and kind of, really see some of the healing things that have emerged from that.
mhm.
Trying to
Yeah.
think, what was the first journey we had where water really came through? Um,
Well, for me, it was, I mean, there could have been something that I'm forgetting before this,
hmm
but for me, when you and I first started journeying to heal, we did this journey and it was specifically to heal the trauma in our body. And I remember spirit taking us to this ocean and they told us to get in the ocean. And something I thought, it's just a random thing, but something I thought was really interesting is that we spoke in the journey. Like I went to the ocean at nighttime and you were in the ocean during the day. And this was
hmm
during the same journey.
Yeah.
And but we got into the water and I don't know if you remember, and something that this would be an interesting topic to speak about one day also, but um sometimes when Dana and I journey, we will have moments, and when I say moments, it could be a moment of like 30 seconds to an hour or two where we won't say anything to each other. And I don't I think even in the beginning, like we didn't really think anything of it. We just like we will just go into trance and we literally can go up to like an hour or two, which we've definitely done, where we won't say anything and it'll just be like dead silent.
hmm
But it's because we're still in the journey, and even though we're not saying anything, we're still receiving the
Yeah.
healing, we're still receiving the messages, and then eventually we'll come kind of to and say, oh, are you still there? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so this happened in this one journey where we both got into the ocean and we were doing this healing, and eventually like one of us said like, oh, are you still there? Like brought this awareness, and then we realized in that moment that spirits, the message I remember spirit saying is, you don't need words in order to receive the healing, you just sometimes need to be. And the point for me in that journey was just to be still in the water and to receive the
hmm
healing from the water without going so much into the mind, like going more into the body.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
the first experience I remember, and I thought that
Yeah.
was really beautiful.
It is really beautiful, and I think it shows us two things. One, I think that how the downloads happen. Sometimes you get the
Mm-hmm.
information in these moments of stillness, and then you will integrate them in the days and weeks that follow. Sometimes the memories start to come back; they start to filter into the dreams,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, I think, interesting. But it also shows us the nature of water itself when we're healing, in the same way with any healing, where that space and that nature for duality. So there's that act of healing where we're speaking, and then there's the other thing. What good is speaking if we don't know how to listen? So,
Mm-hmm.
or we don't know how to
True.
receive. And water itself is similar in that way with the flow, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it flows and it's gentle and it's calm and it's really peaceful waves that are overlapping at your feet. And other times it's knocking you over and you have to fight
Mm-hmm.
to get up.
Mm-hmm.
Water can be, hot on a cold day when you take a bath, or it can be, a tsunami, like it has, or
Mm-hmm.
it can be frozen. There's all of these like dualities within the nature of
Mm-hmm.
water. And I think that's what we see in our journeys, because that's what healing is. It's taking the dualities and like connecting it and allowing yourself to be cooled and cleansed, but also allowing yourself to realize sometimes you have to be knocked over so you can be silent and receive, you know. So I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool. But I do remember that journey. You know, and it's what's so cool too is we've been brought to the shores of the sea, but we've also been brought underwater, like into the deep
Mm-hmm.
ocean. You know,
Mm-hmm.
into caves that are under there. We've been brought to this one journey. I remember this beautiful temple under the ocean, this sort of almost like
Mm-hmm.
church that we went to. And we didn't
Yeah.
understand at the time, but we were connecting with Mary Magdalene there and connecting with some real powerful
Mm-hmm.
divine feminine energy. There was this sort of
Yeah.
monastery type place where women were living and working. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where else where have we been bought? Waterfalls, right? Rivers.
Waterfalls. Yeah. Yeah. For me, there's started, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, that Spirit was taking me to this like forest, and there's this one waterfall, and it was actually funny because like I would go to it, and then in the beginning, like they kept bringing me back there, and I started to get a little bit annoyed, like why do I keep coming back to the same place? And eventually I realized it's for a reason. Hello. But yeah, but a lot of waterfalls,
Yeah,
rivers, you know.
rivers.
Yeah.
Lakes, for me, it was similar in my beginning
Yeah.
opening up before I was really doing the work in a partnership and in a community. I was constantly being brought to lakes. Like there was a lot of lakes going deep into the lakes, the Lady of the Lake sort of thing. And I think it's interesting to
Mm.
really see that parallel, how we both had, you know, if we really look back on our own healing journey, we had water was coming in way before we were conscious of it as
Mm.
a
Oh
way
yeah.
to really access information. You know, and for
Mm-hmm.
me, when I was taken to the lake, it was a lot about the dark murkiness of the water and things I had to work through,
Mm-hmm.
connect it with that, you know, and connect it with really integrating a sort of, you know, darkness and allowing the light to come into the, you know, into the water. But also
Mm-hmm.
understanding that sometimes you're just in the dark murkiness, and that's what you got to work through too. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Another thing for me is recently, especially with Mary Magdalene, I've been going into the Egyptian pyramids and into this like one room specifically where there's it's almost like a hot spring, and I've entered this room, and there's like this little, like you would go to a, you know, a hot spring like here in Peru or something, and she would just like push me in the water. Oh, as I push my hair, she would push me in the water, and she would just, you know, like say, stay there. Like one in one journey, she was literally holding me down in the water, and um, something else. Well, let me finish this thought first, but it's been interesting, yeah, to go into this first highly charged space into a pyramid, you know, and then having
mhm.
her presence, and then going into the water. One for me, that's two things. It's like the divine feminine flow, which you know we've come to know as water. Water is the
Mhm.
flow, and connected very tightly to the feminine. Um, and then also just really cleansing, you know, cleansing and activating.
Yeah.
Um, and something it just came to my mind too is like sometimes the water is warm and sometimes the water is freezing cold. And
Yep.
so it's interesting too to see that difference in energy when working with water, you know, the different temperatures and how that can also be healing in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, yeah, the many forms of healing comes in. It's not just a beautiful sunny day at the beach, you know, and water's like cooling. It's do you remember that journey we took where we were brought to a river? And I believe we started at the base of a mountain and we were kind of thrown into like roaring rapids, remember? And it was like really
Mm,
chaotic and crazy. And then as we went through the river, then it came to a point where there was a calmness and a stillness. You know, so
mm,
within that one journey, we were kind of taken on like kind of the journey of water itself almost, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I remember then we came to a spot along the river where we saw women's feet. I don't know if you remember that. It was a sort of, it was like an Indian feet, and she had a sari on, and she had a bunch of anklets on, and she was like a goddess, the energy that had come through.
This sounds
It's
familiar, yeah.
yeah, sometimes it's so hard to remember all the journeys,
We have so many journeys, guys. It's
Yeah,
so detailed.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it was clear she put us on this path of the river, and
Mm-hmm.
then we were literally kind of walked to her feet, and then there was more messages that kind of came at that point for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big journey where she talked about surrender with us. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about working with water and flow, like what's at the heart of that? Like surrender. And I think that's a spiritual journey
Mm-hmm.
in a nutshell almost.
Yeah. 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 Just
Yeah.
just go with the flow, which is
Mm-hmm.
easier said than done. But
100%.
yes, definitely very. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I
Well,
also
something.
remember this really. Oh, yeah, you go.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I also remember this really amazing journey that we did. It was a group journey. Where we were brought to in ancient times, sort of a hillside where there was these whole bunch of niches dug out that were separated by there was like stairs and stuff, and they would went into these individual little like grottos where there was healing pools of water, and people were laying, and everyone was in an individual. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was the group journey in the beginning of this year. It was either January's or February's. And it was
Mm-hmm.
showing us all of these like separate places people could go in to heal and receive information when they were in water. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that to me is so sort of evocative of kind of what our name is, Agent Keys Oracles, and that when if you look back at how
Mm-hmm.
people healed at one point, or some of the oracles worked with water, they worked in water, they worked, you know,
Right.
yeah, yeah, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of I think is, you know, like this is like deep knowledge, you know, deep ways
Right.
of connecting with spirit that I think it would be amazing to, just continue to follow the sort of breadcrumbs of how to work with the water and how to really bring it in and to heal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Like you were saying, like the water is knowledge, and for me, thinking about that, the one journey that comes strongly is we did this journey for our intention was to do a DNA upgrade, and
Mm-hmm.
Spirit took us into this cave, and I was seeing. So I was like, when I entered the cave, um, there was like you could see down below, like it was kind of high when you first walked in, and then it dropped. And to the left of me, there was this. It's going to sound funny, but it was like a slide. It was this plexiglass, very structured, clear slide
Mm-hmm.
with water, and Spirit said, "Get in," and I was like, "Okay," and it led like down through the cave and into this pool at the bottom. And so I got into the water, and it was freezing cold. I mean, so cold, like even in the journeys, we can feel, on a physical level,
Mm-hmm.
we can feel, pain and different temperatures, things like that. So I got into the water, and yeah, my body was like shivering, and I was freezing cold, and I was like, I don't want to be in here. Like, I want to get
Yeah.
out. And Spirit was like, you need to stay in the water. Stay
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
water. It's freezing cold for a reason. And they said it's that cold because it's healing, and you want to upgrade your DNA, and this is
Mm-hmm.
how we do it.
Yeah.
So, I went into the water. I went down this water slide and into the pool, and then I was lying in the pool for a little bit, and then I was able to get out at the end. But I also remember in that journey that we traveled. You were seeing like this space where the Akashic records were held, and there were like these little boxes, and they were saying there was
Mm-hmm.
this two kind of parts to this journey that came together, and Spirit was saying like this plexiglass slide that I went down was the masculine, and the water was the feminine. And then for you, it was like this little box, and then inside was water. Do you remember?
I do.
And
I
then
do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they were saying like the water that was in the box was the Akashic records of each different person. And, and so then, we came to realize that water information is stored in water, and
Mm-hmm.
not just in this, kind of more metaphysical thought space about, the Akashic records, but also in our bodies. Our bodies are 90% water,
Yep.
and it stores information, it stores trauma.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Absolutely. And what's so wild is scientists have been doing all of these amazing studies, and I saw something recently, a video where they were taking photos of laying images on the water. So they would lay it over like a heart or a cross or stars, and then they froze the water, and when the water froze, it froze in the shape of
mm,
images that it had been laid over. And these are like different scientific studies that they were doing, and that just blew my mind. It's like
mm,
the water was literally containing the actual image,
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Or how about the studies I'm sure we've seen where they take pictures of water that has been talked nicely to and
Oh,
water that
yeah.
has been talked not nicely to, and you can look
Um,
at the ways the crystals in the water even look is really,
yeah.
really interesting.
Uh-huh.
Um, it just
I think
reminds me
what's
of
his,
that sort of message you were talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
it's yeah,
I think it's Dr. Emoto or something, the Japanese guy.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah. And, think about, and actually, so you and I just did a journey not that long ago, maybe a few weeks ago, um, based kind of on this concept, because I said to you one day, it was like, well, so our focus this year has been like the divine feminine, and connecting and healing our bodies. And I said to you one day, like, okay, if our bodies are made up of 90% water, why not do a journey where we go into our bodies, into the water in our bodies, and
mm-hmm.
heal and talk to the water in our body,
Yeah,
and heal. And we had like an incredible, like, I remember I think that journey, like, I literally, spirit said, they literally took me into my lower left hip and we're healing, like I was like in this kind of river in my hip.
mm-hmm.
um but it's so true, like, when not only like when we do like self-talk, when we talk to ourselves, or like we you know have like trauma and pain, like that's all being recorded in our bodies,
Yeah,
in the water.
yeah,
So it's really
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to see, spirit share messages on how that transfer into the soul level when we're talking about the Akashic records, which are the sort of
Mm-hmm.
blueprint of everything we've ever been across all lives, time, space, and to look
Mm-hmm.
at water coming into that, in that message with the box, but also if I really look back at the times we've been bought, some of the times we've been brought to the Akashic records, or even in work I've done outside of working with us, where sometimes I'll go in and when someone's going through a really difficult spot, I've seen the Akashic records themselves show up as a flooded. Whether it's like it looks like a library, like a school library flooded in one reading. In another one, it was
Mm-hmm.
this sort of Roman temple with pillars, and there was floods, and they were sort of showing, like where something
Mm-hmm.
needed, was needed to be
Mm-hmm.
literally cleaned or salvaged. So I think it's just an
Mm-hmm.
interesting sort of metaphor. I think, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think it's
Yeah.
interesting too how connected water is with our emotions. So if that
Oh,
person's
yeah.
in a hard spot and their emotions are flooded, it's literally this sort of collection of water and tears and sort of just all of this sort of um
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, you mentioned tears, like, so sometimes, I mean, for a lot of people, it's really difficult to allow themselves to cry. And I know this
Yeah,
was for me for a long time. Like, I had
yeah,
so much trauma, but I buried it so deep, and I never cried. And now I cry all the time. But
yeah,
in a
yeah,
good way, because now, like, one, I've opened up my emotions to allow myself to cry, but
Mm-hmm.
also like it's very cleansing. Like if you can allow yourself to have a really good deep cry, like you feel amazing afterwards. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it's so releasing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. One thing I think is really interesting, and I feel like you should share your experience is you always are calling me and telling me that you're having these wild experiences in the shower. And I love
Yeah,
it so
yeah.
much. And I think it's so fascinating. And I mean, I've had the experience as well, but definitely you have it much more than I do.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
call it
feel like you,
spontaneous shower journeying. Like, I'm not even intending for it to happen, but it's like when I get
right.
in the shower, it's just like something in me, just like it's like a deep breath or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when I take this really deep breath, this sort of when the water hits me, it just like flips a switch. Um,
Mm-hmm. You
yeah.
open the portal.
Yeah, yeah, the portal's open. The dam has burst. Yeah, the stuff's coming through. That's even
Mm-hmm.
happened after we've journeyed. Where sometimes like
Right.
you get these sort of when you journey, when it gets turned off, and sometimes for me it feels turned off in one way, but not always in another. And those are the times usually if I get off, and because I know we both like to take hot showers after we journey. It's like,
Oh yeah.
and sometimes
Um,
it'll keep going. This other
mhm.
thing will come through connected with it. But yeah, another thing that I love to do, and I haven't done it in a while, which means I should do it tonight, is I love to take a good Epsom salt bath, right?
Mhm.
And to just lay in the water and then to actually intend to journey, to go in there and say, okay, I'm going to do a
Mhm.
journey in the bathtub.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's always a really cool thing to do. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like it's yeah, if we can connect, it's really a beautiful thing
yeah.
to
I,
dive
o-
in and
I always thought it would be super cool to be able to work in a space that you could literally get in a body of water with someone and have like a healing session, like do your session in the water, like give the intuitive
hmm,
reading in the water. Like that would be so fun. Or even to have
interesting.
a healing circle in person in water.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You're giving me an idea for the jungle.
there you go,
That's
right?
a good one for our jungle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've also I think of like I remember you talking when you were in Mexico about how much the water came through for you too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I did about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago at this point, I did a deprivation tank where you go
Oh
into
yeah.
you go into the water and you're basically floating in salt water.
Mm-hmm.
And the water is the same temperature as your body and you're in the dark. So you're floating in the
Mm-hmm.
dark in water and you feel weightless. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
always feel a little weightless when you float in water anyway, but this like ups it a notch.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the darkness and it's this sort of like what I always imagined to be this sort of womb-like feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just a super cool experience. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Now I want to do that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I really want to. There's one actually here in Cusco,
Hmm.
like a really nice center. You can go and like get the whole package, like massage and do the water tank and
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
can be really
Oh, a
interesting. Yeah.
massage too.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get one of them
Yeah.
before my deprivation tank.
I
That would have been
know.
cool. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they have like it's like you can do it separately, of course, but they have a package where
Hmm.
yeah, you can get there's something else included. It's three things. So it's massage. I don't know in what order they do it, but it's like a massage, the
Hmm.
deprivation tank, and then oxygen therapy. It's like all
Oh,
three.
okay.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, it's really interesting. But
the oxygen therapy is such a great thing to do in Cusco with the high altitude. So many people come
oh
and
yeah,
they have trouble breathing at
hmm,
first. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Um, something you mentioned, like, yeah, so I lived in Mexico for a while, and while I was there, so something I specifically remember is, I would go to the ocean, not every day, but definitely quite a few times a week. And yeah, I would just get in the ocean and just like float and like set the intention to heal my body, especially because it's salt water,
Mm-hmm.
to heal and to cleanse the body. But I remember this one day where my husband and I were at the beach, and we got in the water, and I don't know what was happening that day. It was just like really rough, and it was kind of calm, like in the beginning, like when I first got in. And
Mm-hmm.
then as I was in the ocean, like I wasn't even very far out, but I kid you not, it started to become so rough, and like I was drifting like this way, like sideways, and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get my bearings. And the waves just started coming, and just I kept going under, and I couldn't breathe, and it was such a horrible experience,
Yeah.
and it was so intense, and I was just like, what the fuck? What is going on? I'm supposed to be healing in the water, and here I am getting
Yeah.
like crushed by waves. But then it just goes to show you, like you said, like sometimes that's what happens. It's just like it's a little intense. It's not always like
Maybe
calm
you
and
needed
flowing.
something knocked out of you, right? Or maybe you needed some
Definitely
sense
not.
knocked into you, even too. Who knows, right?
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, ooh, yeah.
Um.
But yeah, it was really. I was just like, okay, thank you. This is not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Uh,
Um.
especially when you're trying to look cute, and then my like bathing suit was kept coming off, and I was like, really, guys? It was hilarious.
No looking cute that day.
Nope. couldn't
Yeah.
try if I wanted.
Yeah. It's actually really traumatic to get knocked around by the ocean. It humbles you. It makes you realize like the immense strength
Yeah,
of it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, for sure. When I was like underwater, and I was like choking on water, and I couldn't breathe, and I was just like, shit. Okay, got it. Thank you, water. I'm
Yeah.
getting out.
Not this coming week, but next week I have every year my husband's family does like a week at the New Jersey shore, right? Which I
Mm-hmm.
actually look forward to every year, and that's coming up. So now I'm hoping the universe isn't like hearing all of these water trauma stories. I'm like, I'm not asking for it.
You're like, I'm just talking about it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. What else? We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did. Let's see. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was other points we wanted to make. I'm gonna look at my notes here and say,
Yeah.
I guess for me, one of the things I wanted to really like, I think that like has really been coming up a little bit for me is sort of like the message I think that water gives you, even though maybe that's not what it's trying to say, is to be like water, to just flow. You know,
Mm.
when you kind of look at water, if it goes into a cup, it takes the shape of the cup, or if it goes into the river, you know, it becomes one with the river and kind of like it
Mm.
allows itself to change and to transform and to sort of morph
Mm.
into its container or its environment, you know? It doesn't
Mm.
necessarily expect the environment to always conform to it, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
you know, and I guess that would be, you know, really where the flow comes in, where we're really allowing ourselves to surrender into wherever we are in the present.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and something, I was actually thinking about this last night too, because I just have a lot going on in my life right now. Things are coming up that are unexpected, and just having to change gears and
Mm-hmm.
figure things out. And, like I got really sick the past 2 days, and I don't get sick very often. Maybe like once or twice a year. And when I'm sick, like I think most people, I'm very grumpy. And I was getting really pissed off, and just like really angry and overwhelmed with everything. especially last night. And then I was thinking to myself, like, about the water and just like, okay, I need to flow more. And I realized that this is, because we're doing, again, this divine feminine healing recently, that spirit is really asking us to flow more, to flow and surrender. And I don't know why, but I just keep forgetting. This is
Mhm.
something that happens too. Is the integration, the real world.
Mhm.
Like, yes, we download this from spirit, but then we got to put it into practice. And I haven't been doing so great with that. So, but then I was thinking last night about like, okay, like it sucks, right? These things that are happening for me. And it's like, okay, like shit, this happened. Now, like I have to go back to the US for a while and like different things. But it's like, then I was thinking about the river, right? And it's just like, if you think about a river and there's like all these rocks, and then like you're going down the stream, and maybe there's this huge boulder that's just sitting in the middle of the freaking river. And I feel like that's where I am right now. And I'm just like facing this boulder, and I don't want to go, like I'm not flowing like the water. I'm not allowing myself to see that and be like, it's okay. Even if it's there, I'm just gonna go around it, you know? And I was thinking about that last night, and like I need to be more like the water, and just and allow myself to see that, okay, there's an obstacle and maybe it sucks for the moment, but
Mhm.
it's gonna be okay. Just like flow around
Yeah.
it and you'll keep going, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good reminder for everyone, because
Yeah.
we get, yeah, like these challenges that come up, and we say, shit, I don't want to do this, or this sucks, or whatever it is. But if we
Yeah.
allow ourselves to flow, we're going to have less of a hard time with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um. Yeah. Yeah. I think that something too that the flow really reminds me of is I think that for a very long time, I think in my life before I really started to get into the spiritual journey and really started to really do it, I always said, this was my thing, I always said I feel like I'm trying to way to just keep my head above water, like I'm just going to keep my head above water, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to um drown. That was my thing. If I keep my head above my water, I won't drown. And then I think you come to certain points in your life where you're talking about the boulder and you allow yourself to really realize that for whatever reason, I couldn't keep my head above water, and I started to really go through this sort of spiritual drowning, on some level. And then you realize that you somehow get through it, like there's these little deaths
Mm-hmm.
that happen on your spiritual journey that you drown, but then you're coming up above water somewhere else, and it's I don't know, it's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's an interesting expression too, keeping your head above water.
it is an
Um,
interesting expression, right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um,
I heard it growing up. It was one of my mom's expressions, so it stuck with me,
mm, mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's some divine feminine, uh,
Mm,
some healing, maybe something to look into there.
yeah.
How do we subconsciously program each other, or how are we, like how are these little things that we hear, you know?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they stick with us. Well, yeah,
yeah.
like that's going back to what we were speaking about earlier about, like the trauma. Like, we're healing, right? Like a lot of our journey has been for healing, and like I said, like the water in our body, it's storing the memories, it's storing all of the information, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and yeah, and going in and intentionally setting that free and reprogramming that in our bodies. Yeah, it's mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's really fascinating, and I think like all of the different ways you could just sort of focus, on healing just looking at water. Water is
Mm-hmm.
interesting because it's connected with the sacral chakra, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is something that we've seen come up on the journey, sort of like about releasing the sort of emotions that are in there and sort of, kind
Mm-hmm.
of, um, so I mean, that's right above the root chakra, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry,
Yeah,
someone's coming.
that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, exactly with the sacral chakra for sure.
yeah.
Hmm.
We we um
Yeah.
we have a comment in here where
Yeah. I was seeing
yeah,
you mentioned something.
yeah. Water is one of the most healing elements. Even in your shower bath, you can create your own ritual.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Um,
Hmm.
it's so funny. I
And
think. Oh, go.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we did talk, a little bit about the shower bath experience, but I love this idea. Like she used the word ritual, and
Mhm.
and that's so true. Like you were speaking earlier about like having this like the set our sessions, in water.
Mhm.
But I like this idea too of like creating a ritual. Like, sometimes like as women we like to get a bath and we'll put candles and flowers and stuff. But taking that like one step further and really
Mhm.
seeing it, as a ritual. And yeah, I mean again, like we could put whatever, crystals or flowers. I love to put flower petals and Epsom salts and candles and essence, little oils.
Yeah.
But yeah, creating that really beautiful ritual space, and then
Mhm.
you know setting the intention to like get in the bath or get in the shower and allow it, to cleanse. It's really beautiful. Or it can be like, yeah, any, it doesn't have to be the bath, but it could be ocean, river, whatever body
Yeah.
of water we have
Yeah.
at the moment.
A lot of times when we go back to the shore every year, the vacation I was talking about, my husband does this weird thing, and I always thought it was weird, but it's not weird. It's really cool, and it prompted me to start doing it. Is at first I thought it was weird, is what I meant to say. But he would take
Mm-hmm.
any rocks or shells or things he didn't want anymore that were organic, and he would throw them back in the ocean and like return them to the ocean.
Mm,
Because you know how
yeah.
you go to the beach and you pick all of these shells, and then you get home and you're like, why did I pick 50 shells? Like, I really don't need 50 shells. And he would
True.
save them and bring them back, and I always liked that. And
Yeah.
that's something that I started doing is every time I go back is I would kind of give a stone or something to the ocean, and then I would sit
Mm,
and allow really to think about, like, what is it you want to let go?
yeah.
And maybe this year I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to bring that ritual into a bigger way.
Mm,
And I think we both
mm-hmm.
talked about wanting to work more with ritual elements
Mm,
in real life. Not just
yeah.
doing them metaphysically in our head, but really saying, okay, maybe when we work, we bring a bowl of water in, or
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love that idea with the rocks, and something that I do the same thing too, but what I do is like when I have a crystal that breaks,
mhm,
they always say to don't throw the crystal in the garbage. Like take it and put it back into the earth, whether you put it in the dirt or whatever, but I like to put it in the
yeah,
water, you
yeah,
know? And again, like take the crystal and like release it into the water and say like I'm giving you back to the earth, thank you for being with me. And
mhm,
I know for me, like when a crystal breaks or like a rock or something that I have, it's for me that's saying like we're done, our time is
yeah,
done, we've
mhm,
we've we've completed the journey together, and now I'm giving you back, to your
mhm,
mother.
yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
love doing that ritual too. It's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I did recently a shamanic circle in the park here with in New York City. And what we did is the whole purpose of the circle was on flow. So one of
Mm-hmm.
the sort of rituals that we decided to do was we bought a big bowl of water, and
Mm-hmm.
had added some mint and some herbs to it, and then, like after the ritual, went through and we stated different things. We kind of created little poems to read that were based on flow. Then we poured the water at the base of the tree and sort of like was a sort of offering of all the intents and everything we had went through, and
Mm-hmm.
released and acknowledged in there, and sort of returning everything that, was
Mm-hmm.
released through that, to the earth, and, then became like this nourishment for the tree. And it was just a
Mm-hmm.
little tiny little ritualistic thing, but it felt like to me like these are things I want to start doing more of, like really
Yeah.
start doing that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I know you and I have talked about this, doing, yeah, like more little rituals and things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what comes up tomorrow in our water journey, you know. Now,
Hmm.
like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, me too. So yeah, for anyone who is listening, tomorrow again we have our
yeah.
group shamanic journey at what is it, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
It throws me off a little because I'm in a
Yeah.
different time zone, but yeah, so we're gonna dive into this topic, open the circle, and do some collective healing for the water, go into our bodies, see what comes through. So it should be really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to
Definitely.
join, yeah.
I love how you said dive in. What I'm gonna dive
Didn't
into.
even
Yeah.
mean to say that, but
Yeah,
yes,
no, oh, of course not, yeah.
came through.
Um, there's another way in which we commonly use a reference to water, right, when we talk. We're going to dive into
Hmm.
it, you know. That's
Yeah,
kind of saying
yeah.
we're just going to go head first into, the abyss or
Hmm.
something like that,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
So,
it could be cool tomorrow when we're doing the journey to maybe have a little bowl of water or something like
hmm,
like to bring
yeah.
water. Yeah.
Hmm. You know, actually, so really quick, we don't have to stay so long on the subject, but I just thought of something that we have done. Personally, I haven't done it very often, but we have definitely done it together in circle. When we were first working with our mentor, is water gazing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh.
Another way to look in, and it's very interesting. We've done mirror gazing and water gazing.
Mhm.
Um, for me, the water gazing is a little harder, to be honest, but it's really very curious when you can tap in and you can start to get messages that way. It's just another form of mediumship that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That actually would be a fun little thing to offer. I feel like people might be
Hmm.
interested in that. Like
Yeah.
come join us and bring a big bowl of water. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it more difficult too, but I think it's only because I'm less used to it. The mirror
Right.
gazing I've
Yeah.
done many times over the years. I even
Same.
whip it out on my own, and not recently,
Hmm.
but I used to
Hmm.
be a tool that I would use, and it's to the point where you don't really need
Hmm.
those tools, but they're still fun to work with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just a
yeah,
different method.
yeah,
But yeah, it reminded me when you said, "Oh, let's bring a thing of water tomorrow." So
mhm,
yeah, maybe I can do some of that. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see what kind of comes from that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I don't know. I think that's all for today.
I know. I
It's
think I
almost
think we
12
talked
here.
about a lot.
Yes, we covered a
Yeah,
lot of water
yeah,
topics, um, but yeah. Anyway, like we said, if anyone wants to join us tomorrow for the water healing, feel free to join. And if you have any questions about water healing, you can always reach out to us. Um, we do private sessions as well. So if you're interested in even just doing a private session with us,
yeah,
focused on water healing in the body, you can always do that
mhm,
as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so,
I knew that that's what you were going to say, and that excited me because I think it would be really fun to work with someone just saying, okay, let's look into water healing specifically
mm,
with the person, or,
mm-hmm,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So many different ways to
yeah,
connect with spirit and heal. It's awesome,
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, for sure. Awesome. Well, it was a lovely chat today, and thank you all for joining us. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. We are here for you.
absolutely. Have a good
Mhm.
day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.